Hi, this is Skip from Skip's Messy Workbench, and this is my final video and my final entry or submission, whichever you want to call it, for the third annual Unified Scale Automotive Content Creators USAC group build. I used for this project a Monogram 55 Ford panel truck, and it's the bootlegger edition of it. And I got the idea to make a utility van for a plumbing company. And the idea came about because I lost a cousin. He's actually a second cousin, or I guess you would call a cousin once removed. He was 98 years old, and he had a plumbing business that he took over from his father. Now, his father was my grandfather's brother. And his name was Smokey. That's my second cousin. His name was Smokey. Well, it was Joe, but we called him Smokey. He had such a great sense of humor, and he was also a very good plumber. But he had a great sense of humor. So I thought, as a memorial to him, I would build this truck and make it have a sense of humor just for him, all right? Because he was just a great guy. He was just a great guy. So anyway, that's what I did, and I tried a lot of new things and a lot of new concepts that, for me at least, on this build. And some of them worked out really well. Some of them did not so good, but that's okay. It's a learning experience. I had a ball with it. I had a blast with this. So anyway, follow me down. Follow me down through that door to the shop, and I'll show you what I came up with. Okay? Stick around. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, hi, thanks for following me to the shop. So here is my completed build. I think it came out pretty good. I used all Vallejo paints this time. I shouldn't say that. I used some Tamiya in places, but for the most part, it was Vallejo paints. And, you know, I did some faux pas with the paint. When I get in closer, you'll see that it looks a little bit crinkled. It's not really an orange peel. It was more of a crinkle. And it happened after I put their version of clear on it, which they call like a gloss varnish. And that's when it happened. I didn't wet sand it. Wet sanding it might have brought some of it out, but I found that with water-based acrylics, you have to be really careful when you wet sand because it's so easy to burn right through. So I left it go because, you know what, I actually kind of like the way it looks. So I left it go, but you'll see that there's like a little bit of, there's some crinkle to it. At first I thought it was orange peel, but it's really not. So anyway, this is my completed build. And I chose a utility van, and I had already told you why I chose a utility van in my intro. And before I did that, I actually wanted to make sure that I was able to do some of the things that I wanted to do, such as this ladder. So I don't have the ladder, and I don't have this tube. That's why it's rolling there. I don't have it fastened onto the to the roof racks. But the ladder is I built that out of some channel and some I-beam and then some round stock. And it's a scaled to 24 scale, 1/24 scale. And it's a 24-foot ladder. And it does work. It actually does slide. It actually does slide open and closed. It'll extend. It's a little bit difficult since I got paint on it, but that's okay. I wasn't planning on, making it expand in any way, but it will do that. It will expand open, and you can look at the video, one of my earlier videos on this series, where I actually have this ladder and I show you how it expands open. So that will eventually get tied up on the roof rack. So I scratch built that ladder, and then all plumbers usually have a plastic pipe up there, and I even put the nut on it. That's just a little piece of square stock that I cut to put a cap on it, and that's for carrying, like some small piping or welding rods or whatever they need. So that'll get up there, and I didn't fasten it to the top. Only because I want to come up with a way to make it look more like bungee cords instead of just having it fastened. I also scratch built the roof racks, and it's just some styrene, some sheet styrene, and some channel for the cross members. So that was all scratch built, and it was something new for me. I mean, I've scratch built before, but this was something really new for me. So the other thing that I did was I used, for the first time ever, I used some, like all my other videos, I'm looking for my pointer again. Oh, there it is. I use, for the first time in any of my builds, some 3D printed wheels. And I like them. I like the way they work. So I did the 3D, these are 3D printed wheels. I did the rubber in Tamiya rubber black, and then the wheels itself was Vallejo, like a semi-matte aluminum, to get somewhat of a brushed aluminum type look. So that I did, and I did the running board in the Tamiya rubber black. So that was a first for me also. I did the bumpers and the grill work all in an off-white. I think that white, it's also a Vallejo color, and it is, I was looking for the bottle here, but it's an off-white. It's like a white gray type color. I didn't want it pure white for that. But the one thing that I did do on here is I made my own decals. And I've done decals before, but this one I did, something more complex. Now, before I start to show you the decal, I always do Pennsylvania license plates, and I found online a 1955 plate. Oops. And what I do is I print it, and then I put it in GIMP, which is a free photo editing software package, very, very similar to Photoshop. And I increase the resolution on it so that I can get it to print small like this and still be clear. But this is a 1955 Pennsylvania license plate. So I always, when I build cars, I like to put, because I live in Pennsylvania, I like to put Pennsylvania plates on them. Let me zoom back out again. And I made my own decals for the side. So let me just move the camera here a little bit and we'll zoom in here. To the point where we won't lose focus. Okay, I think that's pretty much got it. Okay, so I did my own decals here. Let me move the camera just a little bit. There we go. And I wanted to add the humor to it. I'm sure my second cousin would have enjoyed this, but I used a picture of Curly from the Three Stooges in that plumbing mess. I think that was from the short called A Plumbing We Shall Go or something like that. And then underneath there, I just put, does your plumbing look like this? I just thought that was kind of cool. And then some lettering for the business name DP&D, Plumbing and Heating, and let our highly trained plumbers make your pipes shine. Now, the reason I said it that way was because my intent is, and it still is, that their side business is not really plumbing, but it's building moonshine stills, not skills. Well, it is a skill, but they build stills. And I started scratch building a still, which I'm not quite finished yet. I'll just have a picture of it at the end of this video so you can see what I'm doing with it. But anyway, that's why I did that. And you'll see here that I have the proprietors as the names Weir Did, that's W-Y-R-E, it's pronounced Weir Did, and Itzel Poorly and Andy Dunn. DP&D stands for Did Poorly and Done. And it was something that me and a former business partner that I had, and we were in business for many, many years, and we always said, you know, we really should call our business Did Poorly and Done. I mean, we did really nice work, and we had a lot of work, believe me. But, you know, we were all just funny about it, and so we always said we should just say Did Poorly and Done. But that's why I chose these names. It's Weir for We Did It Poorly and Done. So that's what that stands for, Did Poorly and Done Plumbing. So that's what that all stands for there. But this was really, making this decal was really fun. And you could see, before I go on, you could see here how the paint got a crinkle look to it. And again, I didn't even attempt to wet sand that because and there's 2 coats of clear on here. I was really afraid I was going to burn through, and I would have never made this deadline if I had done that. But anyway, this was a fun thing to do because you had to play with the resolution to get the text readable, and just, you know, how the colors laid out and stuff. So it was fun. I had a good time doing the decal work on this. I also wanted to do a decal for the doors, so that on the doors I would have had the phone number and email address, and I had a cartoon image of a man head first in a toilet. But with this dark blue, and that's what color this is, it's a Vallejo dark blue, it just wouldn't show up. It just did not show up on that dark blue, so I decided not to use them. Actually, I can show you what it was supposed to look like right here. This is what it was supposed to look like. with the phone number and email address and the little guy in head first in the toilet. So like I said, it just didn't show up well on that dark blue. So I had a lot of fun with that. Now, I did not glue. Let me take this hood off. The hood comes off. And let me take these off of here. Because I used, for the engine, a Hemi from a 71 CUDA. And it's a really, I like this engine a whole lot. Let me take this body. I didn't glue the body on either, because I'm still planning to possibly cut these doors open. I'm not sure about that yet. But anyway, let me get this here. And on the engine, I'll zoom in a little bit here. Because it's a Chrysler engine, I wanted to make sure I got that orangish red that Chrysler used. And I know that Model Master made a Chrysler engine color, and I didn't have that. I have quite a few Model Master colors here, but I didn't have that one, and I found some online, but I was afraid to buy it. So anyway, what I did was I mixed this color. I got it as close to what I could. I had a 66 Plymouth Valiant that had a 225 slant 6 engine in it, and the engine that never dies. But I based this color off of what I remembered that engine being, and this turned out to be Tamiya red and Tamiya orange. I don't remember the exact ratio I used. I have it on my website, but it's like a 20:8, like 20 drops of orange to 8 drops of red to get this color, and I thought that was pretty close to the Chrysler red. I also drilled out the distributor and added the wiring to it. That was a pretty easy job because the wiring on this was, or the distributor cap was fairly large. I used the air cleaner from the Ford engine that came with this kit. But what I did for the first time was I used an aftermarket pulley system. So I took the alternator, that's pinned to the motor, to the engine, and then I put the pulley set on. And I really like the way that works. I like the way those pulley sets work. It really adds that realistic look to the engine. Unfortunately, what happened was when I did that, it brought the fan out further, which meant that there was not enough clearance for the radiator. So I had to make a modification for the radiator. So let me bring the body over here. The radiator itself, that came with the kit, there was no way it was going to fit in there, and I didn't want to have to chop a lot to make it fit. So I remembered Hobby Dude 007, Mark over at Hobby Dude. He made his own radiators, and I went out and rewatched that video. So I went to order the radiator grill part of it, and I got a message back and they returned my money because they were out of stock. So I ended up having to use the radiator that came with the kit, but I cut it up. So it was no way going to fit in here the way this is arranged right now. I didn't want to have to chop this out. It didn't really fit if I mounted it on the front side. So I thought to myself, you know, what am I going to do with this? It came up simple. Instead of a vertical flow, I made a horizontal flow, or a cross flow radiator. So I cut the tank off of the one that came with the kit, and then I used some square stock and put the tanks on the side. I also then took the cap off of the one that came with the kit and to use for the cap. I have the holes drilled for the radiator hoses, and I have the hoses made, but I didn't mount them because naturally once the hoses are on it, I couldn't take the body off easily anymore. So this worked out really well. With the cross flow, I was able to mount the radiator on this side and gave me just enough clearance then for the fan to clear. So I used the cross flow instead of the vertical up and down flow. And again, it worked out really well. The other thing I did on here was I used a 3D printed seat. And I've never done that before either. Now, it came with bucket seats, and I just don't think bucket seats look good in a van or in a pickup truck. I like a bench seat. And what I did with this was I attempted to get this bench seat to look aged and used. So Vallejo on their website has some step-by-step instructions on how to do certain painting tasks. Actually, there's quite a bit out there. And this one was called Painting Aged and Worn Leather. I followed some of it. I didn't have all the necessary supplies that they want, and I'm a real amateur, actually a novice at dry brushing. So I did the best I could on this. I'll put a link in the description for some of the Vallejo step-by-steps that I used on this. It didn't turn out real bad, but some of the areas I could have done better on. But it does look worn. The other thing I did was wood grain. Now, I knew that the bed would not be visible once the body was on. So, you know, I really figured I'm just going to experiment. Let me put this down here. And I'll bring the camera down a little bit. Excuse me. I'm sorry you hear the fire siren in the background. I'll tell you what, the fire siren's going off in this little township of ours like all the time. And I don't know what the problem is. So I tried to do the wood grain, and I also followed a Tamiya step-by-step on it. It looks a little hokey, but you know what? It was my first attempt ever at doing wood grain, and I guess for a first attempt, it's not too bad. But I figured you can't see it anyway. Once the body's on, it's totally hidden. But anyway, there's a step-by-step for this. Again, I'll put the link in the instructions. And I know Charlie Mack does some nice stuff with wood grain, and I've got to go back and look at some of his videos. I just didn't have a whole lot of time to be going back and doing that. So that was something else that I tried that I had never done before. Also, once I had the Hemi engine in it, let me show you the back underside here. And am I zoomed out or in or whatever? Yeah, let me come in here. I'm having a problem here with camera position today. So anyway, once I had the Hemi in, I had to make all new engine mounts because the original engine mounts for the Ford were nowhere going to near to be fit. So I made my own engine mounts. And again, you could go back and look at my previous video where I was doing the engine mounts. But also the exhaust manifolds on the Hemi, the pipes came back way back here. And because I wanted to use the side pipes, I cut them and then I used solder to make the connection to the pipes, and it worked out really well. And then I just painted that the Vallejo makes a metal color called exhaust manifold. And I just used exhaust manifold paint on that. The bottom itself I didn't fuss with. I didn't even dirty it up. I just used some flat black for the frame, and this is gunmetal for the pan, for the interior floor pan. So nothing else fancy. The coil springs and the shocks up in the front are just orange with the silver stuff. So nothing real fancy. So anyway, that's really the build that I did here. I think I covered everything that I had done with it. And let me get this thing back up here. Everything fit. I mean, it was a nice kit to build. I had a good time with it. I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot that I can transfer to other builds. So I had a lot of fun. So Matt, thanks for picking this kit, this particular kit. And that's my build. So I hope you like it, and I look forward to seeing everybody else's builds. It's Sunday the 14th, early afternoon. This is my second take on this video. That's not going to stay, but this is my second take on the video. But that's okay. I'll get it posted this afternoon and share it with everybody in the community. I look forward to seeing everybody else's builds. And isn't it amazing? That hood fit really nice, and now I can't get it back on again. Anyway, I look forward to seeing everybody else's builds. I'll be watching, later this evening and tomorrow to see that. At this time, I want to thank all my subscribers. I really appreciate your subscribes. All my guests that come and watch. I appreciate any feedback that you have. Please put it in the comments. I try to respond to everybody that leaves a comment. And I guess that's all I have to say. So I will see you all in the next build. So that said, bye.